Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hindu Center of Atlanta's weekly spiritual learning program. Acharya Brahmadev ji has joined from Mauritius. Acharya Brahmadev ji has an inclusive educational background in science, banking, and Darshanacharya from Vedic philosophy, Darshan Yoga Mahavidyalaya, Gujarat, and a diverse career in financial services, industry, and at Arya Sabha Mauritius. He has been a key resource person for Arya Sabha Mauritius on the universal Vedic values, yoga and meditation, and on interfaith and intercultural dialogue at various national and international forums. The Mauritius Council of Religions, Arya Sabha America, Greater Atlanta Vedic Temple, and Hindu Center of Atlanta Yoga and Meditation Center in coming. He is author of numerous insightful articles on Vedic philosophy and contemporary issues in English and French. Acharya will be delivering a lecture on spirituality in daily life. Over to Acharya.
Om Namaste ji. Let's sit down straight with the back, the neck, and the head in one vertical line. Close the eyes gently, and while closing the eyes, pledge to the self that I'm also closing my mind to external thoughts and my heart to external emotions, to feel the self within me, that self which drives this body, which is in command of this body. And deep inhale and exhale, feeling the breath movement in and out of the nostrils. And while exhaling, we are going to chant Om, the universal sound, 3 times. Join the palms together, rub them gently, cover the eyes and slowly open the eyes below the palms and transfer the energy to the facial muscles. And keep a gentle smile because that relaxes all the points of tension, stress in our body. Well, spirituality in daily life. The first question is, what is spirituality? Spirituality derives the origin from spirit, but then I usually break it into 2 as spiritual reality in daily life. Otherwise, spirituality will remain only a framework, is as good as a picture which we framed and put on a wall without understanding and applying the inspirations that that picture may give to us. Hindi word for that is adhyatma. और अध्यात्म अपने भीतर में जो चेतन तत्व है, that consciousness within us, जानना, मानना, पहचानना, yani darshan karna. Know that consciousness, acknowledge that consciousness, and try to attain the point of self-realization, where we realize it is that consciousness which we may call the soul or call energy, whatever name we give to that. That is what in Hindi is called Atma. In the Vedas and the Upanishads, etc., it's referred to as Purush or Jivatma. Atma, Jivatma, it's the same thing. And when we attain that point of self-realization, know that the body is only matter. And the day the consciousness leaves the body can't do anything on its own. So what is that consciousness within us? In this universe, the two entities or principles of consciousness. The first one is Paramatma, the supreme being or the supreme consciousness as we know. And the second one is Atma, Jivatma, the souls, which are numerous. How and why the importance of that? When we start on the path of spirituality, the first thing that we reckon is the inner voice always kicking us in the sense that whenever we do anything which is wrong, ethically or morally or whatever word we may tag to that, the inner voice gives us the feeling of guilt, shame, fear, etc. And whenever we embark on good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, the inner voice drives us with motivation to go ahead. We have the sense of happiness, we have the sense of positivity, and we tend to go deeper and deeper with better involvement, better dedication to whatever we are doing. That is the spiritual guidance within us, whether we believe in God or not. That inner voice is always there, pushing us always to be righteous, to be dharmic. That is, live life according to the principles of dharma, righteous living. One example is satya, truth. Truth, if we gauge truth, one is what we see in person, like one event which occurs in front of us, jaisa janna vaisa manna or vaisa kehna. As we've been witness to that, we acknowledge that this is the event, and when we have to tell it to somebody, we don't add the spices to that, we just keep to whatever happened. Because any addition or subtraction to that, that is adulteration. Then there is another higher level of truth, which is called Rit in the Vedas. Rit pertains to the eternal laws of the universe. For example, one simple example, the sun in the morning always rises from the east and sets in the west. Water always flows from higher ground to lower grounds. Like if we fill the water in a bucket, we just drop a pebble, it will make the waves going to the borders, and the waves will come back to the center and the water becomes still. So spirituality is the same thing. For whatever happens in our life, the ups and downs, the ripples or the tremors may shake us, but at the end, we regain our composure and we become calm as the water which I gave in the bucket, the example of throwing a pebble in water bucket. It's a question of recognizing the self. It's a positive aspect of human life. Adhyatma or spirituality is a positive aspect of human life, bringing us towards excellence in terms of being a social being and not the qualification which we use to describe humans as social animals. Remember, when we refer to humans as social animals, the animal instinct is bound to prevail. But when we refer to humans as social beings, then the qualities, excellence, the values of human life, humanity will unfold. And the reference to social beings, if we gradually, slowly, whenever any person we meet, we just ask the question, how do you define a human being? He says, he or she will say, humans are social animals. Just correct it there. Please refer to it as social beings. Because the sense of being drives us to that consciousness, to that spirit within us, and enables us to connect to spirituality in whatever we do in daily life. That develops harmony, peace, and happiness. And as we all know in Hindi, we often say, Sukha, Shanti, Samriddhi. It brings Sukha, happiness, Shanti, peace, and Samriddhi, prosperity at two levels. For whatever material things we've strived to acquire in life, we've put up 100% mental and physical efforts. We'll always remind ourselves that we have to stick to the principles of ethical living, and then we'll also grow not only materially but also spiritually in daily life. Despite all the thorns that we may have in our life, spiritual life will bring us gradually to the status, as we say, a bed of roses, not in terms of the thorns with the roses, but with the fragrance of the roses. And the fragrance of the roses spread all around. We can't say X, Y, and Z, which is near us, you don't take the fragrance of that. And we can't contain that fragrance also. And this is the fragrance of life. And the fragrance of life in terms of positive thinking, inner peace, selflessness, unconditional love, compassion, optimism, harmony, humility, responsibility, the sense of justice, the sense of being truthful, and will always, in one way or the other, allow people to reciprocate those values to us. Is the quality of being connected to that inner self. It's recognizing the feeling that there is more beyond the body. And the spiritual person is simply, as we say, the one who lives with the spirit, the soul, and the Spirit of God ultimately. That is the higher consciousness. Spirituality is the connection not only to the body, but that beyond the body which drives this body. And we remember the Kathopanishad, which says, Atmanam Rathinam Vriddhi, Buddhi Saratimto. So that this parable of the chariot gives us a very vivid description. The soul, the spirit, or the consciousness is the owner of the chariot. Buddhi is the charioteer, and the chariot is this body with all these senses, whether the organs of perception or the organs of action. And that parable of the chariot, when it gives us the soul, the consciousness as the owner of the chariot, then Buddhi, which is the charioteer, the mind or the intellect, which is the charioteer, can only go as per the instructions of the order. And the horses of that chariot, which are the senses, the organs of perception, the organs of action, can only go as per the direction which Buddhi, the mind, the intellect, has given to the horses through the reins. And the path of that is moderation in terms of taste, smell, sight, hearing, and touch. That is the path of this body. And when we are be moderate in life, what happens? We give sufficient space for the spiritual identity to unfold itself. There's one question which always comes to the mind. We often say that somebody is in an identity crisis. Probably if not often, we've ever heard of this word identity crisis. Well, the identity crisis occurs when there are drastic changes to the person's purpose, goals, values, attitudes, beliefs. But if we take spirituality in terms of dharma, living the principles of dharma, driti, patience, kshama, forgiveness, compassion, dhamma, fortitude, self-control, asteyam, non-stealing, shaucham, purity of mind, body, and spirit, indriya nigraha, control of the senses, dhi, wisdom, vidya, knowledge, satyam, satya, truth, akrodha, non-anger. So in these 10 principles, we don't find the rituals which we find in religion, but these 10 principles give us the command to be ethical in life. And these values will not change. Whether somebody be a Christian, be a Hindu, be a Muslim, they can't challenge and say, I don't accept any of these values. Basically, the fundamentals behind religion is to be spiritual. The rituals, if we move beyond the rituals or understand the nitty-gritties within the rituals, then we'll be able to connect to spirituality as spiritual reality in their life. So when these values are there, and these values don't change, they are, as we say, unchangeable, निर्विकार, कोई विकृति नहीं होती है इन सब values में. So when we go with that principle, the identity crisis based on values will never occur. And that enables us to handle the crisis that may occur by the change of purpose, the goals, and attitudes in life. Like if somebody is working in one field and suddenly he loses his job and he has to adapt and move into another field of work in his life to earn a living. Those values will allow that person to be firmly anchored on ethics in whatever he or she does in life. So one that spares us from identity crisis in adjusting to whatever situation that we may get in life. And that brings us to the principles of yoga. And the principles of yoga, which is there, is equanimity, control of the flux of the mind, to be peaceful in both success and failures, to be peaceful in times of happiness and sorrows. So that is the difference between being spiritual and being religious. Being religious, we have a set of beliefs. And with that set of belief, which is also linked to a set of rituals. But in spirituality, spiritual, it means connected to the self, connected to whatever we do in life. And for that, yoga, meditation, mindfulness is a very empowering tool to connect to spirituality in daily life. Because mindfulness allows us to be aware of whatever we are doing at the time we start thinking, contemplating of doing something. Be it right or wrong, be it truthful or not, that sense will be able to read the inner voice, to interpret the inner voice and move accordingly. Religion, there are the spiritual parts of it. And one example is usually when we sit down for prayer, the first thing is we have a bath, we clean and keep our body clean, wear clean clothes, clean the space where we are going to sit for prayers, etc. But first and foremost, we have to tell ourselves that we need to keep our mind and hearts clean. This is the spiritual undertone of that first part. When we close our eyes during prayer time, let's close or else try to close our mind to external thoughts and close our hearts to external emotions. Then we'll be able to sense the sound waves that we are emitting by chanting mantras. And when connecting to the sound waves of the chanting of mantras, we'll be able to benefit from the vibrations that comes back to us, starting to nurture, to, as we say, अपने मन की शांति को थोड़ा धूप, थोड़ा पानी और थोड़ा सा खाद दिया देना. Give some sunshine, some good air, aeration, ventilation, some water, and some fertilizers to our inner peace. So these are simple things we learn to understand. Like often we light a lamp, others may light a candle or an incense stick. I take it from the point of view of all the practices that we see within the rituals. If we look at the lamp itself, below the lamp, it's always dark. But the light of the lamp spreads all around. Up, down, bottom, right, left, front and back, everywhere. So it gives the sense of selfless service, selflessness in whatever we do. Let the fragrance of our good actions go across the whole of this universe. And how? There's the multiplier effect. We remember that mantra from Atharva Ved, which says, Sahasra samahar sahasra samkir sahasra samahar. We earn with 100 hands and we distribute with 1,000 hands. So we earn with 100 hands in one sense that probably if we have a business, we have 50 people working down the line with us, it's 100 hands.
Satahasta samahara, sahasrahasta samkira.
Sorry, I just reversed that.
It's okay.
So when we go with that, then behind those 50 persons working below us, there are the families there. And the families depend on that person to live. So if we multiply the hands there, to whom that goes down the line, it comes to 1,000 or more. So that's one way of saying that if I am good in this world, by being good in this world, I'm going to transfer that goodness to people around me, within my family, my friends, my circle of friends and relatives. And then they have their own circle. And when we connect one circle to the other second circle, and we find that our first circle is small, the second circle is greater, third one is greater, and it goes greater and greater, and finally it englobes the whole of this universe. And that is spirituality in day-to-day life. If we take it from the yama niyama from yoga, ahimsa, non-violence, non-violence in thoughts, in words, and in physical actions. Satya, truth. Asteya, non-stealing. Brahmacharya, it's self-restraint and learning to grow on the spiritual path. Brahma Acharan. And at the same time, retain, focus the body energy to constructive, positive actions. Ahimsa, Satya, Steya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha. And this is one thing that we have to be very, very mindful if we want the sense of social justice. That it's good to earn a living, to grow materially, but grow spiritually as well, because that gives us the sense of compassion. We'll grow. When we grow, we'll distribute. We won't collect or accumulate more than what we need to live a decent life. That will arise in us this sense of compassion towards the needy. Then Soch, purity of mind, body, and spirit. It's not only physical cleanliness, but always thinking about brushing off all the dirt of our mind, of our hearts, etc. Santosh, be content. That is another very strong point. If we are content, we'll find happiness in the small things in life. Otherwise, we'll always be chasing, like running after the shadow with the light at the back, at our back. And the shadow is always going to be in front of us. We are never going to cross the shadow when the light is from the back. Then tapa. Tapa is about developing resilience, and developing resilience towards some level of thirst, hunger, so that we can always spare something to the needy. It's always be resilient to some degree of cold and heat, so that whenever we go to other places, we can easily adjust our life accordingly. Dwandon ko sehna, heat and cold, bhook, pyas, adi. And most importantly, that man samman. We be equanimous. We keep the level of equanimity in front of name and shame. Rightly or wrongly, people may grant us various levels of honors, or they may shame us, but we shouldn't be touched with that. Then Swadhyay, study of the good books, the inspiring motivational books, the scriptures, Veda, Upanishad, Darshan, Shastra, Gita, etc. Always inspiring us, motivating us, and we'll be able to in turn motivate others to be righteous in life. And those scriptures will lead us on the path of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Ultimately, Dharma, righteous living, Artha, righteous earnings, Kama, righteous enjoyment, and on the threefold steps will ultimately reach the fourth step, which is Mukti, liberation from the cycle of birth and death. And realization of prayers also is by connecting to spirituality in day-to-day life. As we say, Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amratam Gamaya. So let's move from untruth to truth. Move from the darkness to light. And the darkness is physical darkness, but also the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge. And Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, that is not cheating, but succeeding to break the chain of birth and death. That is realizable when we tread on the path of Dharma, Artha, and Kama. And how to enhance that spiritual practice in life. One is Atma Nirikshan, self-analysis. And that's the importance of the 10th tenet of Yam Niyam, or the 5th Niyama, Ishwar Pranidhan. Be mindful that we have a supreme being, the supreme soul, Paramatma, ever watching all our thoughts, our words, and actions. And for those who don't believe in God or doubt the existence of that supreme being, I always say they are the laws of the universe. Surrender to the laws of the universe. Obey the principles of this universe. Follow these principles and we'll be happy in life. Follow the inner voice, the divine guide. Whether we believe there's God or not, but there is the inner voice which we can sense. Follow the inner voice. The inner voice is never going to put us on the wrong track. It's only when we use the mind solely, or the heart solely, we are driven solely according to the mind or according to the heart, then we are going astray. But if we listen to the inner voice, apply the logic of the mind and the guidance of the heart, then we'll surely be still keeping track on the spiritual path in life. So one is Atma Nirikshan. Regularly, daily sit down, analyze our life. Probably take 3 or 4 events which went wrong and pledge that we won't repeat the same mistakes or the omissions which we had. And for whatever we've done good, 3, 4 things, let's pledge to do it better. And that Atma Nirikshan will also lead us to start recognizing that peace is first within us. Then we can start looking for peace from outside. That will lead us also to, when we sit down in moments of silence, in meditation, to be able to listen to the sounds of silence. We'll be able to also be more truthful at the prayer times. We'll develop this sense of gratitude, gratitude to the bounteous nature, gratitude to our parents, to all the mentors we had in life, gratitude to all those who influence our life positively. And that will enable us to take care of, better care of this physical body, because we know this physical body is what allows us to perform actions, to do karma in life. So that, remember the qualities of the spiritual person: positive thinking, inner peace, selflessness, unconditional love, optimism, positivity, harmony, humility, responsibility, compassion, justice, simplicity, and always reciprocating the good values, the good behavior that we see around us. That is nurturing the seed, making it sprout, growing into a plant, and then ultimately growing to the tree, and the tree laden with fruits shows us humility. Because as and when the tree starts burgeoning the flowers, we'll see the sticks holding the flowers go straight up. As and when the fruit develops and grows, the branches start growing down. And this is humility, which grows within us as we grow on the spiritual path of life. Remember, the Vedas say, Vayam Syama Patayo Rainam. Dhan aur Aishwaryon ke Swami bane. We be masters of both material and spiritual treasures. And in daily Sandhya we say, Shanno Devi Rabhishtaya Apo Bhavantu Pitaye. So Abhisht and Piti. Abhisht is sansarik sukh, worldly happiness, and Piti is that spiritual treasures, spiritual happiness, which will lead us to be better human beings and ultimately get better families, better friends, and when that multiplies, we'll get a better world around us. I just hope we've been able to delve on spirituality, how that can enhance our quality of life. I leave the floor open to questions, if any. And if no questions, I'll leave it to the Dhananjay to conclude.
Thank you, Acharya for your such a beautiful lecture today. We learned today what is the difference between the being the religious and how can we be the spiritual. It is very fine line between these. And what is the meaning of being the spiritual in our life? We need to, if we think in ourselves, if we just sit down and do a interview with ourselves, we can learn and make our life uh, beautiful. Thank you, Acharji, for your beautiful lecture today. Just to remind everyone that we have Sanatan Dharm Simplified for the kids and young youth on every Friday from 9 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. with the same link. And on Saturday, our weekly satsang morning at 10:30 to 12 noon every Saturday. And Sunday, we have the spiritual learning for the adults from 9 p.m. to 9:45 p.m. So please do join us on those times. And if you have anything to add, any participant, they can add it now.
फ्राइडे को कितने बजे है?
फ्राइडे को 9 से 9:30
9 to 9:30 for the small kids, where they learn some
youth.
Vedic mantras, and they learn some they learn from some stories, some nice stories, the moral of those stories. So you can join on those times. Okay.
So that's for kids and youth, and the Sunday session is for youth and adults.
Yes.
So the youth can benefit from both of them.
Yes. Thank you, Acharya ji.
तो चलो एक बार ओम जाप करके फिर 3 बार शांति करते हैं. सीधे बैठेंगे, लंबे सांस लेकर के लंबे सांस छोड़ेंगे. डीप इनहेल एंड एक्सहेल. ओम शांति शांति शांति. Namaste, everybody. Have a nice week ahead. Thank you.